Okay. All right, everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay today. My name is Cole Van Lanningham, and today I am going to be covering a really nifty tool that goes by the name of Posh Easy Win. And essentially, it stands for, as you can see right here, PowerShell Endpoint Analyst Solution, your Windows intranet needs. Posh Easy Win. Um, as you can see right here, here's the main GUI for the tool. We're going to go over in several other videos how to download the tool, how to make sure that when you execute the script, all the other dependencies are there to work in tandem with the main script, and a slew of other things, right? But first and foremost, I have to give credit where credit is due, and that is to Daniel Komnick. Here in the tool, you'll see that there are a few different features. One in particular is, where you can kind of go throughout the tool and see highlights and blurbs, particular pieces of information. One right here is the About tab. As you can see, it gives you kind of like the overall summary of what the tool is, what it does, who created it, and where you can find it. And really interesting feature right here is you can see these little guys up top that are high-fiving each other. You can actually click on that icon right there, and it has a hyperlink in there that'll take you to the actual GitHub page where you can pull the tool down. But that'll come after you download it initially. So you can click yes, and it'll take you straight there. Pretty cool. But to kind of kick everything off, we just kind of want to go over the highlights of Posh Easy Win and kind of describe some of the key features that it has and some of the really interesting things that might be helpful to you if you're a host or network cyber analyst, that can really give you the edge. Sometimes you go into an environment where there isn't some sort of log aggregation or some SIEM or some sort of log forwarder or anything like that. This really helps you to insert yourself into an environment with minimal logging, and with the proper credentialing, you can use this tool to query any number of endpoints or almost any number of things. And you just aren't strictly confined to what's in this particular section right here. All the hundreds of PowerShell scripts that come with the tool, you can also make your own queries as well. And if you know they work, then you can definitely insert those. This just offers a way for you to visualize things easier. Sometimes people don't like to look at the command line. I like to look at the command line. I also look at GUIs as well, so I'm a little on both sides here. But this particular tool that Dan Komnick created really brings holistically everything PowerShell related under one roof, and really just empowers the analysts to go out and get exactly what they need. So whenever you get the tool, you can definitely read the information in the About, and kind of get a more, more firm understanding of some of the things that you're going to need enabled, what it does, things like that. But the tool was written in the .NET framework, written in PowerShell, and it makes extensive use of the .NET framework. There are third-party tools such as Sysmon and Procmon that come with Posh Easy Win, and also the PS Write HTML module, which that module essentially takes CSV data and helps you visualize it inside of, let's say, a web page. hence PS Write HTML. And you can find that right in here. If you want to do like graph, if you want to graph data, you can graph data and view like network connections from an endpoint, PowerShell sessions, endpoint process data. You can click on each one of these graphs. And once you have an endpoint selected, you can definitely go and start graphing your data with the PS Write HTML module. Now kind of backing up a little bit, we talked about Sysmon and Procmon, some third-party tools. If you wanted to use Posh EasyWin and had the proper credentialing to install Sysmon remotely or use Procmon process monitoring remotely, you absolutely could do so. You can do that via the Interactions tab and Executables. Okay, we'll kind of go over that real quick one more time. So here's your main page. You can go into the Interactions tab and Executables right here, and you can see that you can select Sysmon 64-bit and push that binary with a custom config. We'll definitely go into more depth on that particular piece, but right now I'm just kind of showing you, kind of give you the lay of the land, where things are at, some of the things we're talking about, so you can kind of see some of the key features that come with Posh EasyWin, Procmon, and one particular feature, since we're on this page right here, is the user specified files and custom script. Now, this is like kind of a big thing for me because when we, let's say we happen to go into an incident response type mode and you're given the proper credentialing, you may want to install certain logging mechanisms on the endpoint via PowerShell. Perhaps we can't wait around for a GPO to be pushed or the system admins to create said GPO, and we're given the proper credentialing. It could be workstation admin creds, service admin, or domain admin, preferably workstation admin if we're just communicating with another endpoint that's workstation, or if it's a server admin, or if the customer wants to give it to us, DA admin. And we can push an entire directory to the endpoint and then execute a script in the back end, which will install whatever. It could be a WinLog Beat, it could be Carbon Black, it could be Endgame, it could be Splunk. Maybe we have our own custom package with a logging agent. Maybe we want to push it to the endpoint to a certain directory and install it, and then send those logs to a specific SIEM at a specific location. This allows you to be able to do that through Posh EasyWin all over WinRM and through the .NET framework, essentially. So really cool interactions feature here. If you kind of back up just a minute, kind of going over the highlights of the tool, you can import endpoints from Active Directory, or you can load a CSV file into the directory where Posh EasyWin is at, and there are instructions on how to do that with the tool. We'll definitely go more into detail on that when we start talking about how to import endpoint data from Active Directory. Maybe we aren't allowed to actually communicate with the DC where Active Directory is at, and we might have to give a script to an admin to run for us to give us all the host names, or potentially we're giving zero information about the actual enterprise, which kind of leads me to another real cool feature as far as figuring out what an endpoint has open and doing domain resolution on an IP. If you are given the right parameters as far as DNS manager, domain controller, and you have an IP, you're able to plug into the network. Maybe perhaps you don't know what hosts are in the immediate vicinity of your subnet. you can go over here to the enumerations tab and place those IPs in and start scanning them. Essentially what occurs here is you're doing test net connection on the endpoint to see what ports may or may not be open. And Dan did a really nifty job at kind of like almost, well, to a sense, turning this into like an Nmap-ish feature without really probing the ports that are open. We just want to make sure that they're open so that we can kind of understand what the endpoint might be. If they have SMB, WinRM, NetBIOS, maybe SSH is open. We might be dealing with a Linux system here. You never know. So this is a really interesting feature. We're going to go over this in another video as well. Tons of videos hopefully come out that kind of go over how to use each particular piece of this tool. The collection method, we'll go back to that right now, is a really big thing when you're trying to baseline a host. Dan did a really good job here again as well at kind of putting together, let's say, an endpoint baseline set of scripts that'll run. And you can see here, once you expand that category, you can use WinRM to connect to the endpoint with your right credentialing to, let's say, query this particular host Win10 tag 03 for accounts, command line console history, USB history, get loaded DLLs. It really kind of helps you to get a firm grasp and understanding on exactly everything that's on the endpoint that you would need to kind of uncover and pull back and know. It could be something interesting, and let's say, for instance, the user's PowerShell history for all the users, or maybe there might be certain services running on the endpoint that you want to kind of have enriched detail for. Now you see that there are aliases, get process enriched and stuff like that. These are all scripts that are not hidden, but are in certain subdirectories in the main directory that the main script works with. With that being said, we'll definitely touch on later on another video on where you can find these scripts. And if you needed to make modifications, you definitely can. We'll hit on that as well. But right here, we have the user added commands. And if you wanted to add your own, little one-liners or whatnot, you can do that via this particular feature down here. You can disable syntax verification. Sometimes the particular one-liners that we would like to run don't necessarily conform to syntax verification, so to speak. So we can disable that so that we know, hey, this works, we want to use it. And the great thing about this is that you can store it in your tool and keep your entire folder with you and move it wherever you want to, and it'll still be right here for you. If you wanted to know any more additional details or information about the tool, you can definitely go to the GitHub and look that up, or read more about the tool here in the Abouts tab. There are other features in this particular section as far as info results, monitor jobs. If you happen to select a certain query that you want to run, you can you can select the endpoint, select the query, and then execute, and you can monitor the job here. Endpoint data, account data, command exploration. If you needed to keep op notes for what you're doing so that you can kind of keep track of where you're at in your process, you can definitely do that here. We'll go over this more in detail as well. Essentially, like I said, this is just kind of a brief overview of the tool initially, to kind of show you the wow factor. It's like, wow, there's a lot going on here. It can be a little overstimulating for the first time you're actually looking at this tool. You can say, well, there's a million things, and where do you start first? It's really about where you're at in your process and what do you need to get from the endpoint from a PowerShell perspective, essentially. Now, there are several sections with subsections. Take, for instance, right here for file search. There could be a particular instance where you're looking at all the users' downloads directory. And it could be all the users that are on a particular endpoint. You want to pull back exactly what they've downloaded. And this, this tab right here for file search, you can execute that and connect to the endpoint and search recursively throughout their directories to see what they downloaded, who downloaded what, and then take it a step further and pull back those files from the endpoint if need be. Now, it's kind of really cool because, sometimes people are like, I don't know the exact syntax, this really helps put the analyst in the hot seat and gives them everything they need under one roof, and says you have everything you need. Go out and do it. But we're definitely trying to make some videos to show where you can do set action if need be. Case in point, querying the endpoint for files or binaries or anything like that, and pulling those files back, kind of like an in-game-ish feature. Looking at particular event IDs or EBTX files, also really great. That's under the event logs right here. You see this little chainsaw. That's something that we really want to dive into later, but I'll kind of save it. Let's see, event IDs. If you wanted to do the Splunk Sexy 6, you can click on that right there, and you can click on an endpoint, and then you can do event ID quick selection. And as you can see, once you have your particular set of event IDs you want to look for and your event ID quick selection in your host, it automatically greens up, ready for you to execute. If you need to get a better understanding of what these particular event IDs you're looking for are, Dan put in quick blurbs for everything. So as you can see here, Splunk Sexy 6 tells you the event IDs you're going to pull back and what they particularly correlate to. Let's say you want to do detailed file share. It has the command that's going to be run, and kind of like a quick hyperlink right here. You can Google for reference, and so on and so forth. So if you wanted to do manual event ID, you can click select event IDs, and let's say, I don't know, 4688. There you go. Event ID process creation, you click on that and okay, and you have 4688 right here that you can execute and pull back from the endpoint in the security logs. So really, really, really cool feature. Collections, commands. So right now, we're kind of in this stage where you have all these scripts that you've collected over time, and you kind of just unsure what to do with them. Well, you use them obviously, but with a tool like this, you can integrate your own scripts into the tool, and you can do that just like how I showed you down here in the main page under collections and commands. You can start integrating your own user added commands. And so just do a quick demo for git process tag name sysmon, right? You want to see if sysmon is running on this Windows endpoint. We'll have our proper credentials, and we'll go over that later, but just a quick demo, just show you how this is working. Go ahead and execute that. It'll do a 1RM check. It says, hey, it's up. Here are my creds, administrator. I'm going to go ahead and query that endpoint, and then the monitor jobs feature will come up. If sysmon is installed on the endpoint and we were able to properly pull back that particular running service, it'll green up. If not, it will red. It won't be able to pull anything back. There's no data. And you can do a grid view, which is CSV format, and you can absolutely see right here that Sysmon is indeed running on the endpoint with some other particular information around that binary. That's just a little taste of some of the things that we can do quick, fast, in a hurry. Yeah. Now, primarily the tool operates over WinRM 5985. There are some SMB protocols that you can use with the tool. And if you needed to kind of sift through that, so what's SMB, what's RPC, what's WinRM, and you want to just do SMB commands, F445 is open for you. And then here you go. We can sift through all the queries that are pre-built into the tool, but we only want to do SMB type queries. Here we can do that. Now you can see for endpoint commands, here are all the SMB scripts that you can run. For Active Directory commands, all the SMB scripts that you can run as well. And if you are strictly just operating with WinRM, you can click on WinRM and you can see all the scripts that you can run using the WinRM. Primarily, I operate using WinRM. So there may be some instances where I have to use SMB. Maybe you need to send files over SMB or do other types of actions. There are several features that come with the tool, and the gist of this first video was to just show exactly how you could leverage just the .NET framework in such a way using this tool. It's incredible. I use it all the time, especially when I'm doing labs or I'm setting up enterprise environments where I'm pushing out agents or I'm pulling back data. Maybe I'll do some red team injects and I want to see if I can pull back a particular process, or if I can look at registry keys, see for persistence, or maybe look at scheduled tasks. There are definitely it's almost the sky's the limit when it comes to using a tool like this. To quickly circle back around, if you would like to download the tool and start exploring on your own, you can go to Daniel Comics GitHub page, which is, go ahead and click on our little high five and bros, and it is just go to Google and Google Posh EasyWin, and it'll take you right to his main repo right here. You can take a look at other repos that are out there, but the master is the most stable. There are some bugs from time to time, maybe some visual issues, but nonetheless, it works flawlessly. Great tool, love to use it. Use it all the time. It helps me to understand PowerShell a little more. It helps me to understand what I can and can't do over PowerShell, and it helps me get to thinking, okay, hey, look, I'm in this particular scenario. I need to do X, Y, and Z, and how can I do that? I'm in a mainly Windows Enterprise. Hey, I can use Posh EasyWin. I can pull back scheduled tasks. I can pull back auto runs, startups. I can, you name it, it's here. And if it's not here, you can integrate it. So now in the next set of videos, we're going to go through how to download the tool. Very easy, very simple. Kind of go up some of the startup procedures, some of the things you're going to encounter, some of the things that you're going to be like, man, I don't know what's going on. Why is this not working? So kind of like step through that process a little bit, because it can be a little bit for a first-time user. It can be a little cumbersome for them to understand. Totally got it. But we're going to go over that process all the way to certain types of credentials that you can use for certain types of actions, and get a little bit more in depth. We're going to try to cover every feature that we can and keep going in the right direction. So I hope that this video was informative, and that it helps you to kind of say, man, I want to use this tool, or you want to take it for a drive and do some of your own experimenting. By all means, you know where the GitHub's at, and I really hope that I see you in the next video. All right, take it easy.